back, please. Go back, please.
After years of silence and endless speculation, Tom Cruise's daughter has finally spoken out, and what she revealed has left fans, reporters, and even Hollywood insiders stunned. Her words peeled back layers of mystery surrounding her relationship with her father, exposing emotional truths no one expected to hear. From long-buried feelings to shocking new details, Suri's revelation is sending shockwaves through the entertainment world. So, is this the moment that changes everything for the Cruise family? Stay tuned, because her powerful confession has everyone asking the same question. Why now? The vanishing shadow of Suri Cruise. Long before turning 19, Suri Cruise had already lived a life more closely examined than most adults ever will. Cameras once trailed her every step, capturing the designer dresses, the gentle hand of her mother, guiding her through crowds, and the rare moments when her father, Hollywood's unstoppable action star, held her protectively against the chaos. But what seemed like a fairy tale childhood slowly faded into something quieter, something guarded, something that left more questions behind than answers. By the time 2012 arrived, the world had watched Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes go from Hollywood royalty to the center of one of the decade's most dramatic divorces. Yet it wasn't the breakup itself that stunned millions. It was the silence that followed. Almost overnight, Tom, once the doting father who carried Suri through airports and shielded her from flashing lights, vanished from her everyday world. As his movies continued to dominate box offices, his presence in his daughter's life became a mystery that only deepened with time. Meanwhile, Katie, determined and deliberate, redesigned her daughter's life far away from the noise that once defined it. Gone were the red carpets and luxury trips that filled Suri's earliest years. Instead, she stepped into a life shaped by privacy, school routines, and the simple thrill of being unknown in a city full of strangers. Katie's protective shield was no accident. It was a choice born from fear, instinct, and perhaps secrets the public never fully understood. But hovering over everything was the question no one could escape. Why had Tom stepped away? Whispers surrounding Scientology, its rules, its expectations, and its power, slowly grew louder. Some believed Katie had made a daring escape to protect her daughter from a world she feared. Others pointed to the church's strict disconnection practice, suggesting that leaving meant losing more than a marriage. Tom never confirmed any of it, yet his distance only fueled speculation. Now, years later, Suri's transformation has become one of Hollywood's most unexpected plot twists. Her name appears differently on documents. She chooses silence instead of headlines. Her life, once defined by her father's fame, now exists miles away from his orbit. But even as she steps into adulthood with quiet confidence, her story remains tangled with the unanswered. Did Tom choose distance, or was it chosen for him? One truth stands firm. Suri has learned to live without the man the world expected to see by her side. But her silence, that's what's making people lean in closer. But before we dive into Suri's revelation, let's return to where everything truly began. Keep watching. The Hollywood fairy tale that shook the spotlight. In 2005, Hollywood paused as a new romance ignited a media frenzy. Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, two worlds colliding in a whirlwind that seemed ripped from a storybook. Katie, beloved for her role as Joey Potter on Dawson's Creek, had already been navigating life in the spotlight and was engaged to actor Chris Klein, yet the universe, or perhaps Hollywood fate, intervened. She had long harbored a crush on Tom Cruise, admitting in interviews that he had captivated her imagination as a teenager. When the introduction finally happened, their connection was instantaneous, impossible to ignore. Almost immediately, their relationship became a spectacle, moving at a pace that left the world breathless. Engagement followed swiftly, and within weeks, the pair was thrust into the public eye in a way few couples ever experience. But this was not just a love story. It was an initiation into an intricate, secretive world that few understood: Scientology. Tom's devotion to the church had shaped not only his career but, as whispers suggested, his personal life. Past marriages had reportedly struggled under the weight of the church's influence, and rumors circulated that potential partners were vetted for compatibility with both Tom and the organization. Former Scientologists claimed there was a highly secretive auditioning process, and names like Nazanin Boniadi had emerged in the press as women who had allegedly faced strict scrutiny and unusual restrictions before becoming romantically involved with the star. Yet Katie seemed different. She fit effortlessly into Tom's orbit, at least outwardly. But the question lingered. Was she truly ready for the world she had stepped into? For all its glamour, it was a world that demanded more than mere charm. It required navigating invisible rules and unseen expectations, all under the gaze of an insatiable media. The apex of their early romance exploded into global headlines during an appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show in May 2005. What was meant to be a simple promotional interview for War of the Worlds turned into a moment forever, etched in pop culture. Tom's exuberance broke through all restraint. He leapt onto Oprah's couch, fists pumping, face alight with uncontainable joy. He dashed off stage to fetch Katie, bringing her into the spotlight in a sweeping embrace that left audiences cheering and gossip columns ignited. Some saw it as pure, unbridled love. Others whispered of calculated theatrics. The studio behind his film was reportedly less than thrilled. The spectacle had eclipsed the movie itself, shining an intense, sometimes uncomfortable spotlight on Tom Cruise, the man behind the public persona. As headlines roared and cameras clicked, the world was left asking the same question. Was this the heart of genuine passion, or a carefully choreographed display designed to dazzle the public? Hollywood would soon realize that beneath the fairy tale glitter, there were currents far more complex, pulling at the edges of love, faith, and fame. But what was really behind Tom Cruise's over-the-top display? Genuine love or calculated spectacle? Stay tuned to find out. A fairy tale wedding shrouded in secrets. Beneath the glittering lights of the Eiffel Tower, a 5-carat yellow diamond caught every eye as Tom Cruise proposed to Katie Holmes in a moment that instantly captured the world's attention. Katie, known for her role as Joey Potter on Dawson's Creek, stepped into a romance that moved faster than anyone could imagine. Months later, news of their first child only intensified the fascination surrounding a relationship that seemed plucked from a storybook, yet carried hidden complexities. Cruise approached fatherhood with the same intensity that defined his career. Determined to be hands-on, he purchased a sonogram machine to monitor the pregnancy himself, a move that surprised medical professionals who warned that such procedures should only be performed by trained specialists. When their daughter, Suri, was born on April 18, 2006, the birth itself became a topic of speculation. Holmes reportedly followed a silent childbirth protocol, encouraged by the Church of Scientology, which taught that noise during delivery could negatively affect both mother and child. Observers wondered whether Holmes had real choice in the matter, or if she was conforming to a world dominated by her partner's faith and rules. The intersection of faith, family, and fame added further complexity. Holmes, raised in a devout Catholic household, now navigated life alongside a partner deeply committed to Scientology. Her parents, particularly her father Marty, struggled to reconcile their beliefs with her choices. Balancing concern for their daughter with respect for her autonomy, they faced an unusual challenge amplified by celebrity scrutiny. When the wedding approached, they chose to attend, offering cautious support while harboring private reservations about the path Holmes had taken. On November 18, 2006, the couple exchanged vows at Odescalchi Castle in Italy, a historic fortress transformed into a stage for a fairy tale wedding. The $3.5 million celebration dazzled with meticulous planning. Katie's custom Giorgio Armani gown, infant Suri's matching ensemble, and decor that created an image of perfect family bliss. The guest list included Hollywood's elite, from David and Victoria Beckham to personalities personally requested by Cruise, including Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony. Yet subtle oddities suggested tension beneath the grandeur. Guests noted the unusually long wait for Holmes to walk down the aisle, and Cruise's orchestration of the event blurred the line between personal romance and public spectacle. Even the vows reflected the unique circumstances of their union, blending devotion with religious influence. Cruise's words, pledging that Katie would provide girls need clothes and food, tender happiness and frills, a pan, a comb, a cat, left some guests charmed and others perplexed, underscoring how Scientology had already begun shaping the couple's life together. The ceremony shimmered with elegance, yet behind the smiles, in fairy tale imagery, the pressures of fame, expectation, and devotion quietly mounted. From the Eiffel Tower proposal to the castle in Italy, the early days of Tom and Katie's relationship were painted in vivid, larger-than-life colors. The world saw a picture-perfect union, glamour, wealth, and happiness captured in glossy headlines. Yet beneath the spectacle lay a reality shaped by faith, family, and the quiet compromises required to merge two very different lives. The fairy tale dazzled, but the first cracks were already forming, hinting at challenges that would test love, loyalty, and public perception in ways few could have foreseen. But what hidden tensions lurked beneath the fairy tale wedding's glamour, hinting at the turmoil to come? Stay tuned to find out. The escape that shook Hollywood. When Katie Holmes stepped into Tom Cruise's world, it appeared to be the ultimate fairy tale: red carpets, luxury vacations, and a seemingly perfect family that dazzled the public. Yet behind the carefully curated image, those closest to Katie began noticing unsettling changes. The once vibrant, free-spirited actress gradually became guarded, moving with caution, as if every gesture, every word was under surveillance. Life with Cruise wasn't merely a marriage. It was an immersion into Scientology, a world of rigid rules, expectations, and relentless observation. Church members and devoted aides reportedly shadowed Katie constantly, ensuring she adhered to the strict tenets of the faith. And even within her own home, privacy was nearly impossible. By 2010, the pressures had begun to take a visible toll. Journalist Maureen Orth, observing the couple during a dinner, noticed Katie's careful responses whenever fans approached. "Oh, we don't go outside very much," she said, a statement that hinted at a life confined, meticulously managed, and far removed from the freedom most people take for granted. Over time, Holmes withdrew from old friends, distanced herself from parts of her family, and created a life increasingly insulated. Deb Baer, who had interviewed Katie during her early acting career, remarked on the stark transformation. The lively, outspoken young woman she once knew now moved through public interactions with mechanical precision, constantly praising Cruise in a rehearsed manner. Those familiar with Scientology, such as Jenna Miscavige Hill, niece of church leader David Miscavige, recognized the psychological and social pressures Katie likely endured and empathized with her eventual decision to reclaim autonomy. The turning point arrived in June 2012, a moment that stunned Hollywood. Just days before Cruise's 50th birthday, Katie filed for divorce, catching both him and the public entirely off guard. Cruise later admitted the news struck him profoundly. "To be 50 and then it hits you. This is what life can do to you," he said quietly, revealing the personal impact of the sudden rupture. Yet Katie's move was months in the making, executed with meticulous care. She switched cell phones, replaced staff she suspected of reporting to Cruise's inner circle, and hired new security, all under the discreet guidance of her father, Martin Holmes, a lawyer who had assisted with her prenuptial agreement years earlier. She strategically chose New York as the jurisdiction for the filing, knowing its courts favored parents seeking sole custody, particularly over California, which might have complicated her goal. The legal battle itself was remarkably swift. Within 11 days, the divorce was finalized. Cruise agreed to pay $400,000 annually in child support for Suri, covering health, education, and general welfare. Yet, financial compensation was never Katie's aim. Her priority was control over her daughter's life, shielding Suri from the pervasive influence of Scientology and ensuring she could grow up free from pressures that had dictated much of Katie's own married life. Former Scientologists later confirmed that Katie's fear was not of Tom himself, but of the church's ability to shape, monitor, and control the child's future. The The day after the settlement, Katie and Suri vanished from Los Angeles. Paparazzi soon spotted them in New York City, walking hand in hand through Chelsea, freed from the orchestrated world of Hollywood handlers, staged appearances, and constant scrutiny. Katie appeared tired yet liberated, a genuine smile replacing years of carefully measured expressions. Suri's life had shifted dramatically as well. The father who once carried her on red carpets, calling her his miracle, was gone. Not in anger, not amid drama, simply absent. In that silence, a new chapter began, one that neither Hollywood nor Scientology could script, where mother and daughter could finally navigate life on their own terms, free to explore identity, family, and faith away from the relentless glare of public fascination. But how had Suri's journey from a guarded childhood in Hollywood to this moment of independence truly shaped her, and what surprises might lie ahead? Keep watching to find out. The Vanishing Daughter. June 2024 marked a defining moment in Suri Noel's life. At the United Palace Theater in Manhattan, she walked across the stage with the kind of quiet confidence that seemed both natural and hard-earned. Her white gown shimmered beneath the red graduation robe, a striking contrast that mirrored the duality of her upbringing, a childhood split between the glare of public attention and the calm sanctuary her mother had built for her. As her name was called, the announcement echoed through the hall. Suri Noel. The subtle change from Cruz to Noel was more than a formal detail. It was a statement, a declaration of independence, and a nod to Katie Holmes, whose steady presence had shaped Suri's life after the whirlwind of her parents' divorce in 2012. The absence of her father was impossible to ignore. Tom Cruise, the man who had once carried Suri through the flashbulbs and media storms of early Hollywood fame, was not in the audience reports noted. He was thousands of miles away, in London, attending a Taylor Swift concert. The contrast was stark, a reminder of how their worlds had drifted apart. Since the split, Tom had largely remained distant, a presence defined more by financial provision than personal connection. Over the years, he ensured Suri's needs were met: tuition for elite schools, a trust fund for the future, and annual support that underscored his commitment to her comfort. Yet money, no matter how substantial, could not fill the void left by absence. Katie Holmes, in contrast, sat among the proud parents, tears of quiet joy glinting in her eyes. She had been the constant force in Suri's life, guiding her through adolescence without the trappings of Hollywood or the shadow of her father's fame. And now, with high school behind her, Suri was preparing for the next chapter, Carnegie Mellon University, where she planned to study fashion. The choice underscored her emerging independence, a deliberate step toward a life shaped by her own ambitions rather than inherited legacy. As Suri Noel stood on the threshold of adulthood, she carried with her both the freedom and the weight of a story that had long been defined by absence, poised to chart her own course in a world she was finally claiming as her own. But how did Suri grow up between fame and her mother's protection, and who did she become? Stay tuned to find out. A childhood in two worlds. From the moment she entered the world in 2006, Suri Noel was thrust into a spotlight few children could comprehend. The daughter of Hollywood superstar Tom Cruise and acclaimed actress Katie Holmes, she quickly became a fixture in tabloids, her every coo and giggle meticulously captured by cameras. Bright-eyed, impeccably dressed, and endlessly charming, Suri was celebrated as the golden child of the entertainment industry, a symbol of glamour, privilege, and celebrity perfection. Yet behind the smiles and flashes of light, her childhood was quietly bifurcated, split between the demands of fame and the calm sanctuary her mother would eventually construct. Before 2012, Suri's life was a whirlwind of red carpets, luxury vacations, and public appearances. She was often seen in Cruise's arms, shielded yet showcased, a tiny figure carried through a world obsessed with her parents' narrative. But after Tom and Katie's divorce in 2012, the tone of her life shifted dramatically. Katie made a conscious decision to step away from the media frenzy, to nurture Suri in a world that prioritized normalcy over notoriety. Gone were the glitzy events and staged smiles. In their place were quiet mornings at Manhattan's parks, afternoons in private schools, and evenings spent at dance classes or art programs. Katie worked tirelessly to provide her daughter with an environment where curiosity and creativity could flourish without the oppressive glare of Hollywood attention. Tom Cruise's presence, once a defining constant in Suri's life, became sporadic at best. In 2013, during a rare deposition, he acknowledged the strains in their relationship, admitting, albeit reluctantly, that Katie had made decisions to shield Suri from the influence of Scientology. The church's practice of disconnection, which can compel members to cut ties with those who leave, loomed over their family dynamic. That same year, he reportedly saw Suri only once in a brief, private meeting. Afterward, the father-daughter connection appeared to vanish entirely from public view. While Tom continued to star in blockbuster films, perform jaw-dropping stunts, and travel the globe, Suri was growing up without the guiding hand of her father. Yet in the absence of paternal oversight, Suri developed resilience and independence. Friends and teachers noted her intelligence, her empathy, and a natural grace that seemed to reflect both her heritage and the nurturing environment her mother had built. She learned to navigate life with quiet confidence, embodying the poise of someone who had seen both extremes of a childhood, the dazzling glare of fame and the comforting embrace of ordinary life. Despite financial support from her father, tuition fees, a trust fund, and an annual alimony that ensured comfort, the emotional cost of his absence was palpable. Suri's world became one of dualities: privilege and isolation, adoration and longing, public fascination and private solitude. Through it all, she remained grounded, shaped by Katie's careful guidance, yet quietly aware of the distance that would define her formative years. In this delicate balance, Suri learned not only to survive, but to grow, cultivating strength that would serve as the foundation for the young woman she was destined to become. A name, a statement. By 2021, Suri Noel had begun to quietly carve out her own identity, separate from the world that had once defined her as Tom Cruise's daughter. That year, during her senior year musical at New York's LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, a school renowned for nurturing creative talent, Suri appeared in the program not as Suri Cruise, but as Suri Noel. It was a small yet profound act, a declaration of selfhood that went beyond a stage credit. Friends and classmates noticed it immediately. This was not a child merely performing a role. This was a young woman choosing who she wanted to be, signaling that her path would no longer be dictated by her father's fame. Katie Holmes had always been the quiet anchor in Suri's life, guiding her through a childhood that blended ordinary moments with extraordinary attention. From the parks of Manhattan to dance rehearsals and private school classrooms, Katie nurtured her daughter's talents without the glare of Hollywood cameras. This foundation allowed Suri to explore her passions freely, whether acting, directing short films, or experimenting with music and fashion. Katie's unwavering presence provided a model of independence and resilience, encouraging Suri to step into her own light rather than live in the shadow of a celebrity parent. The choice to adopt the name Noel became even more prominent in June 2024 at her high school graduation. As Suri walked across the stage to receive her diploma, the name called aloud by the announcer carried weight and intention. It was an acknowledgement of her mother's influence, a tribute to the years of guidance and protection that had allowed Suri to flourish away from the pressures of Hollywood, and a public statement of personal agency. In that moment, she was not just a graduate, she was a young woman asserting control over her identity, signaling to the world that she was ready to navigate life on her own terms. Even as she embraced her new identity, Suri remained grounded. In 2025, she visited the set of Katie's latest project, Happy Hours, donning casual khaki pants, a white tank top, and red sneakers. Observers were struck by her calm self-assuredness. There were no cameras, no entourage, no glitz, only a poised, confident young woman quietly taking in the environment. She engaged with crew members, offered thoughtful observations, and carried herself with a maturity that belied her age. These moments, small, personal, and unassuming, revealed a deeper truth about Suri Noel. She was no longer simply defined by her lineage or by the media's fascination. Each choice she made, each step she took, in public or private, was a testament to her independence, her confidence, and her careful assertion of self. The name Noel was more than a surname. It was a banner of autonomy, a declaration that the young woman standing before the world had chosen to write her own story, guided by her mother's steady hand and inspired by the quiet strength she had cultivated over years of careful growth. So what has 12 years of absence really cost Suri? And can her father ever reclaim lost time? Don't blink. The story is far from over. The silent divide. For over a decade, the world has watched Suri Noel grow from a wide-eyed toddler into a poised, self-assured young woman. Yet one notable figure has remained conspicuously absent: her father, Tom Cruise. Since the divorce from Katie Holmes in 2012, the two have shared almost no public moments. 12 years have passed without photographs, interviews, or even confirmed visits, despite Cruise maintaining financial responsibilities that cover tuition, health care, and a substantial trust fund. The absence is not for lack of resources. Suri has never wanted for material comfort. But the emotional gap has been unmistakable, shaping her life in ways money cannot reach. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise's world has continued to ascend. From blockbuster films to jaw-dropping stunts that defy gravity, his career remained relentlessly in the public eye. By 2025, he had begun exploring projects beyond the Earth's atmosphere, preparing to collaborate with NASA and SpaceX, an ambition that seemed almost symbolic of the distance that now separates him from the daughter he once carried through the flashing cameras of Hollywood fans may cheer for his daring feats. But the personal cost, the quiet absence of his youngest child, remains unseen, hidden behind red carpets and headlines. In contrast, the intimacy between Suri and Katie Holmes has flourished, characterized by moments of simple, unassuming connection. In October 2025, Suri was spotted in New York sitting on a doorstep, her head resting in her hands, lost in thought. Katie arrived moments later in an Uber, sliding beside her daughter and offering quiet words of comfort. They walked together afterwards to a nearby cafe, purchasing pastries and sharing soft laughter. To an outsider, it was a fleeting, ordinary scene. To those aware of their story, it was a poignant testament to the deep bond that had carried Suri through the absence of her father. Katie's presence has been steady, a guiding force that balances Suri's independence with warmth, providing both support and the freedom to make her own choices. Even as Suri carves out her own path, the hidden cost of fame and legacy is ever present. The story of her upbringing intertwines privilege with profound absence, love with control, and visibility with invisibility. Suri pursues her studies at Carnegie Mellon University, exploring fashion, writing music, and building a life defined by her choices, rather than inherited fame. Each step she takes, each creation she crafts, is a quiet act of autonomy, signaling that she is both resilient and determined to forge her own narrative. Yet questions linger. Will the distance between father and daughter ever be bridged? Can time heal the silence, or has the gap grown too vast to close? For now, the divide remains, palpable and unresolved, leaving Suri to navigate her emerging adulthood with a mixture of independence, longing, and quiet strength. Her life continues, vibrant and unfolding, as she defines herself on her own terms, a young woman shaped by both absence and unwavering support, carrying the weight of a story that is far from finished. So what impact has Tom Cruise's long absence had on Suri Noel's life, and could their relationship ever be mended? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.